Hi, my name is Aaron Migden. I am the director and editor of My Day with Michael. I would say it was written, but I mean, there's nothing really written here. In fact, some of my other Halloween documentaries were things that had very strong concepts, where, the very first one actually had a shooting script. Whereas this one was essentially just a meta version of the previous Halloween um, documentary that I had made. So in the very first Halloween documentary, it was basically like I wrote 10 interview questions and just went to South Pasadena Halloween Day and just sought out people who looked like interesting Halloween fans that would make for good interviews. And it really was that simple. Sometimes people would approach me, because you'll see people with their phones and with little tiny cameras filming. But when you have pretty professional equipment, especially if you have lights, people tend to be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" Especially if you're filming in their neighborhood. So in the very first documentary, when we were filming at the Halloween Hedge, one of the women across the street was just hounding me with questions. Do you have a permit? What are you doing this for? And she was essentially a Karen, and so we left and came back thinking that, oh, we'll come back and she won't be there. And yeah, she still lived there, but yeah, she wasn't there. This is my favorite shot of the movie. Was really grabbed by accident. We were filming the Myers house, which he was standing next to, and I told my cameraman to pan over to him and sort of line him up in the middle. And he didn't hold that pose for very long. We ended up, if you notice, it's a little slow motion. We didn't do that stylistically. We did that because he only did that. We only got about 10 seconds of him doing that. So for the shot and the title and everything, we had to slow it down. So as you can see, we used two cameras here. This right here is the Sony VG20. And the other camera was our iPhone, was the iPhone 14. And so basically, you know what? I'm wrong. It's the iPhone 11. I got the 14 later. Um, and it just sort of, I'm not going to lie, I did that to so this is the iPhone footage. I just kind of did it to give the impression that we shot with multiple cameras, which we did. Just one of them happened to be my cell phone. And that's essentially how we come across these movies, how we produce them, is I essentially just film all day, and then we kind of make heads or tails of it later. And then there's me, as that title clearly denotes. So what I mean by it's a meta version of my previous documentary. So in the previous doc, we found people like this dressed like Michael Myers, and we were like, hey, can we mic you up and follow you around? And in the finished movie, two of the three Michaels we had filmed knew ahead of time that we were going to kind of meet up with them and film. But the very first one, the black and white gay couple in the previous doc, we just kind of approached them. This guy's has sort of an interesting Michael, because he walks around with this really loud speaker. I don't know where it is, where he keeps it, but it's just blaring Halloween music. So it was very difficult to communicate with him. One, because I had to shout, and two, because he doesn't talk. This movie is currently, so right now it's August? It's August 4th, 2024, and I have about 5 or 6 weeks before I hear back from the rest of the festivals. You tend to fare better when you make these Halloween docs. You tend to fare better at festivals that take place during the fall, particularly if they're Halloween specific. But yeah, I just wanted to show all these Michaels in a sort of interchangeable fashion, and with the fluidity. So obviously they're not all the same person, but maybe for a moment you would think that. But this was a very experimental type documentary. So it's essentially a meta version. It's a documentary aware of the fact that it's a documentary, where the director, seen here, me, is shown interacting with people. In the previous documentary, the way this idea came about was, in the previous documentary, I found that the funniest part of the footage was approaching people and trying to sort of schmooze them into participating in the documentary. But the thing is, I didn't really have the camera set up. I was only running audio. To get their permission, and then once I had their permission, then we sort of composed the shot better. Whereas this one, we were like, no, make sure all the footage looks good, which is really, in retrospect, something I should have done anyway. But yeah, this movie really did kind of get sort of mixed reviews so far. In the first initial festivals that we've submitted it to, like we've only been rejected so far, so we have not got into any festivals yet, including the festivals that picked us last year. So it has me thinking that documentaries should be more straightforward, and there really is sort of an abstract nature to this movie. It still has that texture of sort of the interactions with fans, and it's real. Most of these people didn't know they were being filmed until after. You'll also notice that the movie is in letterbox. Now we didn't shoot it that way, so the iPhone footage was already letterbox because I used this special anamorphic lens. But this, we're just using a regular lens. So what we had to do was crop a little bit of the image, which actually in editing was a lot of fun because you have a little bit of latitude on the image, so you can have it go a little bit up or a little bit down. So essentially, I was able to go through all of these shots and compose them exactly the way I wanted. But yeah, maybe people just don't like me. They just don't like my stupid little jack-o'-lantern socks there, or maybe I could see a film programmer watching this movie and thinking like, why is the director all over this movie? I also think maybe that the reason why it got rejected by the festivals who had accepted my movie before is because maybe they were like, oh, this guy's only making Halloween documentaries and he has no versatility, therefore, fuck this guy. I don't know. I mean, you never really know why you're going to be rejected, and it could just be something as simple as the programmer who accepted my film the previous year wasn't the same programmer who even worked the festival that year, so he has no idea who I am. There's always this sort of idea that when you get into festivals next year, you sort of have an advantage because they don't, or because they know who you are. And I have found for the most part that is true, but that's also assuming they use the same programmers each year. And with some of these festivals, you just never know. I really like this woman's sweatshirt here with the Halloween with the jack-o'-lantern there. That looks like something that was custom made. But yeah, so this guy didn't want to wear a microphone. He was like, you can film me, I just don't want to wear a mic. And so what we essentially had to do, you can't really tell in the shot, but on the stairs there, the little stepway that he's stepping on, the mic was actually wrapped around the stairs. And so we got the audio. It wouldn't have been as clean as it would have been if he was actually wearing it. But then the good thing is also whenever he's talking to people, their sound is clear. So we noticed in previous years when we mic'd up the people dressed as Michael that the audio was always clean on him, but that the other people we would have to sort of turn it up a little bit. So the two songs in this movie are both piano covers of very very popular songs, popular at the time. That they were released. So in the opening is "The Boys Are Back in Town," which is a really wonderful song to use because it fits not only the tone but sort of the whole premise behind the song kind of fits the personality of these guys who come to Pasadena dressed as Michael Myers. You know, they're essentially like man children, like there's boys, and they're back in town in South Pasadena on Halloween Day. This is my favorite part of the footage right here is and you really do see like it's not about, people don't come to South Pasadena Halloween Day to scare people. It's not about fear, it's about family, and it's about sort of the community of people who sort of gather together. You don't really see it so much in this documentary, but you see these two people taking pictures, the Michael Myers and the girl, but what you're not seeing to the left of the house is 40 or 50 people just standing around the house, admiring the house and admiring Michael Myers. And again, you're going to see here the sort of abstract nature of this movie. Like, okay, like this shot, for example, sort of intercut with the footage of, and this is a different Michael, taking pictures with fans and everything, intercut between these sort of black and white sort of artsy shots of him sort of admiring his handiwork. Now, the reason why those shots were black and white is because they were incredibly grainy. So that was towards the end of the shoot where we were losing light, and the footage looked really bad. And we found that the only thing that really worked was converting it to black and white and then bumping up the saturation. And then this, of course, is the famous Halloween head shot on the iPhone with a gimbal. That's why those shots are nice and smooth. You know, I'm watching this movie now, and I'm a little bit biased because it's my movie, but I just love what I did with this. But so far, I've had to deal with universal rejection, and it's a very simple movie. Maybe it's too simple. A low budget movie, maybe too low budget. I didn't even give myself a director credit. You'll see that it just ends, and then you see the year of production, and that's it.